name is and I am a distinguished professor at Marquette University at the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures. I'm also the founder of Arab and Muslim Women Research and Resource Institute. And I would like to give you like a fast overview about the organization history, the small history, and talk a little bit about our major task and the purpose of establishing such organization. Arab and Muslim Women Research and Resource Institute established in 2009. And the purpose of establishing the organization was to document and collect the histories of Arab and Muslim women through oral interviews. We are collecting the history also of men as well, but our major focus is on women, because many women are absent from historical records. Women's history contributions are always, most of the time, are marginalized, and even if they mentioned. We try and actually women contributions, women responsibility, women's role are proved to be very instrumental in their family lives, in their community lives, and in the society as a whole. So what we are doing, we are listening to women as they narrate their stories. They talking about their lives before immigration as well as their life after immigration. They talk about their ways of integrating and adapting to their lives here in the United States. They talk about the issues and the problems that they face living in the United States. They talk about other than the problems that we know about and we hear in the news about the stereotypes that always directed towards women, the misconception about women. They also talk about major issues like they consider them as major issues that is focused on their household, mainly child rearing, education, their choice for schools for their children, the centrality of religion and language, their native language at home. Through this oral interview, through collecting these stories, our interviewers and researchers actually listen to these stories and engage with their narrators. Women, like they listen, they speak their stories within details about all these issues that they are facing. In 2010, when we established our organization in 2009, our first project was in 2010. We were very fortunate to have a small grant from Wisconsin Humanity Council to start our first project. Now, this year, we also have another grant from Wisconsin Humanity Council to continue this project, as well as another grant from Millen Andrew at Marquette University, the College of Art and Sciences. The major issues that we are examining this year is about identity issues, how women's appearance, how women's clothes, and that's why we're wearing the cultural clothes of these women. How women clothes, women's choices of dress, what does it mean to them, and why do they choose these kind of clothing to wear, and how these clothes are connected to their identity, the meaning of these clothes to them. We, as the public, when we listen to these stories, we will get some insights, we will get some better understandings of the issue of the complexity actually, and as well as the flexibility of women's identity when it comes to women's clothing, and the connection between women's clothing and women's identity. So as we listen from these students, we will know how these women and how these women talk about the meaning of these cultural clothing, how also these cultural clothing is related to their culture, to their country, to their religion. Each woman will talk about how these cultures are connected in a special way to their identity. We are hoping to overcome, by doing this, to overcome a lot of stereotypes that is connected to the women's appearance and women's dress. We are hoping also that we increase more understanding about issues, about women's issues that they are facing in the United States. Before we listen to our students, I would like to introduce Diane from the Wisconsin Humanity Council, who she would like to address you for a few minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm delighted that all of you are here this evening. It is a real pleasure for the Wisconsin Humanities Council to be providing support for this program. As you may know, the Wisconsin Humanities Council's mission is to support and create programs that use history, culture, and discussion to strengthen community life for everyone in Wisconsin. This is a great time for us to be examining all these issues. We were pleased to provide a mini grant in 2010, and tonight's program was also supported. So very welcome to all of you, and congratulations to you and your colleague for designing such an interesting program.
Thank you so much. I would like also to introduce Gina Albromate, she's a board member at the Wisconsin Humanity Council. She would also like to talk to you.
First, I am just so happy that you are here, and I think it's really important for us to be listening to these stories, these histories, and to deepen our understanding about this such important discoveries and important work. I have been on the board of Omri from the very beginning, and I am just so happy to be a part of this work. Now, I do want to tell you that one of my jobs at Omri is to train volunteers, people who want to volunteer to do oral history. So if you want to do that, we have an evaluation form, which at the bottom is a place for you to indicate if you'd like to either be interviewed or be a volunteer. So before this session is done today, I will pass out the evaluation forms because they're really important to us in continuing to improve our work. And then that'll give you an opportunity to also indicate if you'd like to volunteer or be interviewed. And again, I want to reinforce how important the Wisconsin Humanities Council has been to our organization. Thank you.
And now we would listen to Samantha Breuer and her presentation and her experience interviewing members of the Arab and Muslim community.
Hi everybody, my name is Samantha Pryor. I attend Marquette University. I am a sophomore. And first of all, I'd just like to start off by saying that I am double majoring in philosophy and Spanish. So before I took Dr. Anaya's Arabic literature class, I had absolutely no knowledge about the Arab and Muslim community anywhere. Frankly, in Milwaukee, in their homelands, anywhere. So I took the Arabic literature class and English translation purely out of faith because I thought it sounded like a cool subject, and then I fell in love with the history, and I fell in love with the stories, and I fell in love with the program. So when I was introduced, Dr. Anaya asked me, hey, I have an opportunity if you'd like to take it, and I jumped at it, and I said, absolutely. I've only been with Emory for a couple of months, so I don't have as much experience with actual stories, but what I'd like to share with you today is just what I've learned so far. So the main interview that struck me the most was with a woman named Rashida, and Rashida's from India, but kind of on the India-Pakistan border, and she is Muslim, and she currently lives in a suburb of Milwaukee. She couldn't be here today, sadly, which is honestly sad for me because after meeting her, she is such a bold woman and such a strong woman that I would have liked her to be here. And her clothing that she wears every day is a little bit different from what we are all wearing. It's more like a big pantsuit, and she of course wears her headdress every day, and that is her normal outfit. At home, in public, that is what she wears. She wears her cultural clothing all the time because she identifies herself first as a Muslim woman and then as a citizen of India or a citizen of America. But she is a Muslim woman, and what this means to her, what the headdress means to her, is really modesty. And that's what she wanted. She has 4 daughters, and she wanted to give that to her daughters. And she really stressed to me in our interview that it didn't matter what her daughters wore as much as it mattered the value of modesty in their religion. Rashida's first language is Urdu. Never heard of Urdu until I had spoken to Rashida. But she also is pretty fluent in English. And her religion was so important to her that she actually learned how to read in Arabic so that she could fully understand her holy book. And her children, 4 daughters, 1 son, all know how to read and speak pretty decently in Arabic so that they know their holy book and they understand their holy book. Just one thing I want to wrap up with was a big misconception that I had coming into the interview was the idea of marriage. And she made it very clear that her marriage was an arranged marriage, but that didn't mean that it was a forced marriage. So her parents knew her husband's parents, and they suggested, hey, this guy, he's a pharmacist, he's doing pretty well, we kind of like him, do you like him? And she said, yeah, I like him. And then when she was asked to stay home with the kids, even though she has a bachelor's degree in political science, she's perfectly educated, she was asked to stay home with her kids, and she thought that that was the greatest honor, that her husband would trust her with raising his kids and with raising them with religion. And for me, it took away the idea of the cage, you know? This woman didn't live in a cage. She was proud, she was happy, and that's really all that I have to share with you. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to bring up Alexis.
Hello, my name is Alexis Marco, and I'm a sophomore at Marquette. I first found out about this project because I study Arabic in Dr. Anaya's class, and I absolutely love it. I decided to study Arabic because it was determined that it was a critical language, so I thought it would open up more job opportunities for me. And little did I realize that it opened up a whole new world for me. Arabic is much more than just something I can put on my resume now, but I have friends, I'm learning about a culture that I absolutely love, and I have a role model in my professor, Dr. Anaya. When Dr. Anaya told me about Omri, I took an interest in this project because I believe that it's extremely important to learn about different cultures and to immerse yourself in the uniqueness of those cultures. After studying Arabic, I realized that just learning the language was no longer enough to learn about the Arab culture. Omri has enabled me to understand more about the Arab culture through learning about traditions, the religion, and cultural clothing. It has opened doors to a new world that I didn't even know existed. The friendliness and genuineness expressed by each of the interviewees has taught me to appreciate all aspects of the culture and be open to new and different ways. Being able to interview and speak with women and men from different, various Middle Eastern backgrounds, I've been able to learn about the different identities associated across the Middle Eastern cultures. My personal definition of identity has changed because although it defines who a person is, identity is also dependent on the culture a person is most comfortable with. And this project has highlighted the importance of cross-cultural identity and the different ways in which it affects people. One example of this is a Palestinian woman that I interviewed. She came to America in her 20s to be with her husband. And she explained to me that being one of the first Arab families in Milwaukee was very difficult because they didn't have family and friends to celebrate the holidays with or people to connect with. However, she made sure to incorporate her Muslim and Arab culture directly into her children's lives by speaking Arabic to them, making Arabic food, and teaching about their religion. Her children were able to combine their American culture from what they learned at school, along with the Arab culture that they learned at home. Maha, this was the name of the woman, she also spoke about how she and her husband made sure to watch Arabic television so that they would educate their kids about what was going on in the Middle East, and so that they would know that their families were safe. She and her husband would have their children watch the news as well so that they were aware about the Middle Eastern history and so that they could recognize how the United States' actions often directly affects what happens in the Middle East. Maha's determination to combine both cultures and create one strong Middle Eastern and American identity for her children is something that I've found very common for immigrant families. It is important to recognize the traditions and identities that are created from multi-country families. Another person I interviewed, this was a man, he was determined to make a life for himself and found one in America by being completely independent. Living away from his family and friends, he was forced to develop new relationships with people who were completely different from him, new backgrounds. Here he was able to find his true identity, an American and Palestinian that he represents in different ways. He represents his Arab culture through his 4 distasha pieces. The distasha is a long dress made of thin white material, which he mostly wore overseas and occasionally wears to the masjid in America. The distasha reminds him of his homeland and his roots, and he is proud to represent his country and relive those aspects of his culture through his distasha, which is also a reflection of his religion that emphasizes modesty. The greatest commonality I found between these two interviewees that they were able to combine traditions from both cultures into one. From interviewing people of different Middle Eastern identities, I also found a commonality between the cultural clothing. The kufiya is a scarf that symbolizes different Arab nations and can represent the pride a person feels to wear their country's colors. The distasha, thobe, and hijab are clothing worn by Muslims to represent modesty and to preserve the sanctity of their bodies. Each person can wear them when they feel they are ready and confident enough in their faith, and are able to recognize that these cultural clothing are an important part of their religious history. Apart from learning about cultural clothing, time after time I have been astounded by the strength held within each of the people I interview. In particular, one woman I interviewed explained to me how she had to become strong and independent for her kids when her husband wouldn't help her raise them. She went behind his back and secretly learned how to drive. After deciding to divorce her husband, and with only a 6th grade education, she went back to high school and got her GED, and then she went to MATC for 2 years and studied cosmetology and then opened a salon. I just really believe that this woman is a perfect example and proof of how people can overcome their hardships. And I believe that this project is able to shine a light on everyday people who are not always recognized nearly as much as they should. In the end, this project is eye-opening to any person who is willing to expand their horizons and learn something new about a culture that can often be tainted by misunderstood representations. By simply listening to different interviewers, a person will be able to develop a newfound respect for the Muslim and Arab culture. This project recognizes the importance of discovering the small details and traditions of different cultures and celebrating those differences. This research project is critical to the advancement of knowledge of cross-cultural identity and learning more about how identity is a constantly evolving concept. Thank you.
Will speak to us.
Okay, I'm Rowana Tari. I'm a sophomore at Marquette University, and I'm actually studying psychology. I initially took Arabic to learn more about my language because I am a second-generation immigrant. And with Omri, I've had the opportunity to not only learn about the histories of Arab and Muslim immigrants in the Milwaukee area, but I've also become truly empowered by the strength they possess. They've carried the courage from their past into their present, allowing them to make great contributions to the society and their families. I just recently interviewed a woman who told me about the refugees she welcomes into her home and the daycare center she opened up. The selfless acts of Rafat, the woman I had the privilege of interviewing, has given families opportunities to start a life while holding on to part of their culture and being comforted in the fact that there are still people out there that are willing to help. Listening to the stories of the people in the Milwaukee community has given me the opportunity to see the kindness and strength that make them proud of who they are and where they come from. While living away from your homeland, it can be hard to hang on to one's culture. And while trying to balance two different cultures, it is just as hard. Through cultural clothing, immigrants have the freedom to express their identity and where they are from. From the first generation to the second generation women I have spoken to, cultural clothing has always played an important role in staying connected to their homeland and their culture. And many women look forward to passing down their cultural dresses to their daughters as well. Henna and Fatma, both first-generation immigrants I had the privilege of interviewing, explained to me the importance of handing down the dresses to their daughters. Henna said that even if they don't wear them, she would like them to have them in her closet, just to remember her when they open up their closet, just as she remembers her mother. While being so far off from where they grew up, these women feel a sense of security and comfort when they wear their traditional clothing. The clothing helps strengthen cultural identity, especially with second-generation immigrants who have not been able to experience the depth of life in their parents' homeland. Cultural clothing keeps them connected to their roots, making them feel more comfortable and feel more like individuals. As dresses are passed down from immigrants to their daughters, they carry with them a piece of identity for succeeding generations. These dresses vary from country to country, which makes each individual dress unique. Some dresses lean towards a more traditional look, while others exude a more modern look. While taking on a vast array of different colors and intricate beadings, cultural clothing has the ability to strengthen a sense of cultural identity within the individuals of the community. I've also had the chance to interview many Palestinian Americans living in the Milwaukee area, both men and women. I've begun to understand the incredible sense of connection Palestinians have with their homeland as well as their people. And as a Palestinian American, I was able to connect with the people I interviewed. I spoke to Minad. She was a second-generation Palestinian, and she helped me understand the great pride she carries with her in being both Muslim and Arab. She explained these strong emotions came from a common feeling of togetherness within the Palestinian community, because each individual truly empathizes with what Palestinians have endured throughout the years. As well as interviewing women, I interviewed a few men who were born and raised in Palestine. Maruf and Rafiq spoke about their experiences of war and occupation. They both spoke about the fear that they felt, but what I remember most is that their fear did not stop them from expressing the injustices they have seen and faced. Fear never stopped them because the courage of the people around them kept them strong and full of pride. When someone asks me what my nationality is, I always tell them I am Palestinian, but I never truly knew how much power that single word held. The interviews I have done have given me the realization that Palestine itself remains alive due to her people who are courageous enough to fight for her. I hope that one day I can embody that undeniable hope and integrity these people carry, and I am truly honored to call myself a second-generation Palestinian American. Thank you.
And she actually interviewed Arab Christian woman who was 90 years old from the Syrian community in Milwaukee.
Hi, my name is Afnan. I got my bachelor's in psychology and communications a few years ago, and about a little less than a year ago I got my master's in marriage and family therapy. And in my program I did my own research on Arab immigrants, and in doing my research I discovered that there wasn't much out there. And so when I spoke to Dr. Anaya, she let me know about Anne-Marie and what they were doing, and I got really excited and jumped right on it. And my first interview was Margaret Mater, and she is a second-generation Arab Christian, and her dad immigrated in 1905. And with my interview with her, it was really interesting because I have my own experiences because I'm Muslim and I'm Arab, and I'm a first generation. I immigrated with my parents when I was just a few months old, so I don't really remember much, but it was interesting to compare her parents' experience as first-generation Christian Arabs in 1905 versus my family's story. And so it was nice to compare a Christian Arab family with my own family. And to the Mater family, food, music, religion, and various cultural traditions were held onto and honored far from their homeland. When Margaret, 90, discussed how she grew up as the daughter of Arab immigrants, she vividly described the savory smells of her mother's ethnic cooking, the sweet smell of her father's water pipe, and the beautiful Syrian music her family would play and dance to. So with Margaret, when she described being raised by her mother, a big part of what she spoke about was food. And she talked about how her mother was always in the kitchen and the 3 big meals, and that's where her mother was primarily. As far as cultural clothing, she said that her mother had a few dresses and she brought them back with her, but she never wore them and they weren't as important to her. What was more important to her was the traditional Western clothing. However, she never wore slacks. She described her mother as never wearing slacks, always in dresses and skirts and high heels. Her hair was always done, and she always wore her Sunday best. She always had a fur coat. So cultural clothing for Margaret and her mom and the family was very different than what I expected it to be, because from where I come from, you know, like what I'm wearing is very important to my family, and the clothing that they brought back with them from overseas was very important to pass on. With Margaret and her family, maybe because of the time that they immigrated, the culture was different and their intentions were different when they came and immigrated here, but the cultural clothing was a different experience for me when I did my interview with her. Margaret's interview was very valuable because her parents were of the first wave of Arab immigrants, which is very valuable. Her parents were, you know, they came in the early 1900s, and I thought it was just such an amazing experience to speak to somebody that had such a unique experience.
Thank you.
You want to ask any questions you have, need any explanation, please do. We open to answer any questions, me or the interviewers, researchers. No. Actually, I wanted to say something. Afnan highlighted really a very good point of the difference in assimilation between Arabic Christians and Muslims or Arab Muslims. For Hale, her family, mother family, they came in late 19th, early 20th century, and most of the Syrians who came during that period of time, actually they came through during the period where Americanization was in its height, conformity to the main culture, which is mainly like Anglo-Saxon culture, was in its height. If you wanted to succeed in the society, find a good job, you have to learn the language really good. You have to not to have accent like me. You have to identify yourself through the religion that you came with. For them, like they came as Balakite, as Greek Orthodox. So they identified themselves with the religion and with the region as Syrian more than with the national, with the ethnic group as Arabs. They changed even their names. So like for example, Yaqub, which is a Christian Arab name, they changed it to Jacob. Yusuf to Joseph. So, and this is because of the situation that they live in during the late 19th century and early 20th century. But as we see, and as we like all know, like after World War II, we like experienced different kind of immigration and who came during different time, which is a time that encouraged plurality and diversity and etc. Questions? Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could tell the stories of your own clothing. And there may be some people in the audience who would be willing to tell your story too, but I'm just wondering.
Afnan?
Well, I don't remember where I got this from, but I do know that the embroidery...
Not this one particular
This one
one,
particularly, but in
yeah.
general, the embroidery, they're valued because it's hand embroidered, and they take their time when they do it. And I know that some other pieces that have more embroidery, you'll see more of like reds and greens, and they just that kind of describes the land that they come from. So I know that some of my mom's favorite pieces, it has like this pattern, the down the side, and you'll see, if you look closely, there are like little patterns of trees in the land and the people, and so some of it is like that. Other ones have different designs which symbolize different things that are important to that family or of that time period.
So for example, this one is called like Rumi, and this is from the region of, in Palestine, from the region of Ramallah and Beirut. And it takes them like, I don't know like how many months to finish it, and it's all hand made, and it is like a time consuming to do it. But actually women, they are the one who design these clothes. They are did the design and the art thing here. They are the one. This is something that they started. They created, and they are actually modernize and keep changing it. These are like our students who actually wear like very nice to wear these buttery clothing, so we can use it for our future website, hopefully. So the color changes, they change the color, the material, the fabric, and it is different from one region to another. So women, they can recognize like, who is she, this woman, and from which region she is based on the clothes that they're wearing.
I have a question. Where do Arabic women purchase these? Is there a store here in the States or Milwaukee?
How did I purchase this?
Yes. How did
Let
you?
me tell you the story of this one. I called my sister who lives back home in Palestine, and I asked her to make this one. She sent me many pictures and many designs, so I told her exactly what is the colors that I want, what kind of material I want them to make the dress on, and also how much silk thread I wanted to be designed. She went over there to a lady who actually has her store, but this lady, this became like a very good business. This lady actually commissioned another ladies from different villages from surrounding village of the around Ramallah, who actually they will do this. These are village women who this will become the way they make money. So they will spend maybe 6-7 hours a day just working on this dress. So how many hours this took, I can't imagine, but I'm sure that it is more than 2 months of like everyday work. And that's why because it is expensive, so because of the time consuming, because of the material, and because of people actually now value it a lot, especially for example, because it means, as they say, many things to many women. It means Palestinian identity, that I'm Palestinian, I'm wearing clothes from Palestine. It means I'm Arab also, and I'm wearing Arab clothes. It means I'm a Muslim, I'm wearing also not just I'm combining cultural clothes with Islamic head dress. So it means different things to many different women, and they work differently. So it's mainly of a choice. It is not the way we hear that women always oppressed and victims, and the way they look and the way they dress, it is imposed on them from a male relative, or from a husband, or a father, or any other male relative. This is not what is the real story is. If there's no questions, we can enjoy this show, but we can enjoy the food, the Arabic food over there as well.
I just have a question.
Sure.
The title of your beautiful project says Arab and Muslim women, and I know that the Arab world stretches from Morocco all the way to the Muslim.
Yes, to this particular
India
area.
and Indonesia. And I was just wondering why you didn't include other Arabs and other Muslims.
So we said the name of our organization is Arab and Muslim women. When we say Arab, we mean Arab, Muslim, and Arabic Christians women. When we say Muslim, we mean Muslims from all over the world, including Asia.
No, that's what I meant. I mean, why didn't you include other clothing from other parts of
We're working on it. You mean that we're working on it? She interviewed people from Pakistan and India. We have a separate website that we are working on it. We're trying to make a historic background about no way, there's no resources to do all at once. But we started now with few countries in North Africa, like Morocco, for example, and Libya. Then, and I think Egypt, we have that one too. Then we have Palestine and Syria and Pakistan. So we are increasing these countries, but we don't have the resources to and the time to do it all at once. But we're working on it. It will be this website. It will be in progress all the time.
That's why if you want to volunteer and if you want to be interviewed, we'd be absolutely thrilled.
Any other questions?
وحكاية بيروت حكاية الرصيف التعبان بالناس وبالحيطان وحكاية بيروت حكاية الرصيف التعبان بالناس وبالحيطان بالأمل العنيد بسكك الحديد بصوت الفرح والهرم والزمان